Good morning from Easier Habits Live. I'm Alec. Meg is doing one of her Japanese live streams like she normally does on Tuesday, so I have free reign to address a topic of business. And actually, this morning, I read a post on the Entrepreneurs Reddit, which I visit sometimes when I need ideas of questions people have or problems people are running into. And the post was this: I created a new entrepreneur Discord. No promotion, no spam, no ads, etc. Like, you want to join, DM me. And this person committed the biggest mistake you can have when creating an online community or even a business. Can you guess what that is? Well, it's not, instead of having a purpose, having an anti-purpose, right? So this person wants no promotion. All right. Well, one, I have a problem with that because promotion is a part of healthy networking. So basically, this is a person saying, I'm going to set up a network for entrepreneurs where you're not supposed to network. Okay. So, that's a problem. That's a minor problem in and of itself. But even that can work if you have a reason for it. Now, what I want to do is show you a comparison between two websites, one of which I use religiously, and everybody in the industry, has used regularly multiple times, so much it's a meme, and a community that I visit occasionally when I'm bored. So, and there's difference. The difference is actually Stack Overflow and Reddit. They both have essentially the same format where you have topics and you have someone often post a question, you have answers, you can upvote and downvote answers, and you get reputation. Functionally, these things are the same. But the difference is that Stack Overflow has a specific mission. Right? Stack Overflow helps engineers solve code problems, and because of that, the content is self-curated. The community itself curates the content very well, and they have some more specific guidelines than that about what you should or should not post. But within this framework, it's not that you can't post external links. In fact, external links are welcome if they're actually helpful. Right? They don't have to ban self-promotion. They just have to make sure that you are providing quality answers for code or quality questions, etc. And the community does a fabulous job of that. Because of that, every engineer knows they can consistently go to Stack Overflow for answers and questions, to answer their questions. And that's why I don't go to Reddit, for example, to answer my coding questions. Now, sadly, there aren't a lot of entrepreneur communities that are very both targeted towards something and not just selling the one particular viewpoint of an individual. And that's one of the reasons why, as an entrepreneur, it's hard to it's really hard to find support, because unless there's three things that have to happen on a website to get support, or three alternatives, right? So one, you go to r/entrepreneur Reddit. It's a generalized board, so people post whatever, and I don't consistently get value out of it, although there's some interesting posts from time to time, so I check it when I'm bored, right? And that's most Facebook groups, etc. Now, sometimes you come across a community that is targeted towards helping with a specific case. So, it might be marketing, writing, creating online course content, etc. And those have wonderful specificity, but 99 times out of 100, they're run by one individual who's selling their platform and trying to get other people invested in it, rather than an open community. And they lock down promotion because they're worried anybody else might get traction in the community they worked hard to set up and curate. But partially because of this, they're essentially constantly stifling input into the system. And then the third place people go to get entrepreneurs, you can get a ton of value out, but it's usually behind paywalls. These are like masterminds. When I listen to people who are extremely successful, chances are, yes, they joined a lot of communities that were trash or rubbish, or tried paying for courses and online communities that didn't pan out. But eventually they also found some place, and it was usually a community gated behind some large paywall, where there were entrepreneurs focused on a particular problem, whether it's growing your net worth from a particular point to a particular other point or whatever it is. But basically they use the paywall to keep people out. And so you really don't join these groups unless you're serious, because you're willing to actually put that kind of money into the mastermind. And a lot of people, understandably just don't do that because there's a lot of risk. It might be a trash mastermind, and a lot of them are, right? But some of these actually are exactly what people are looking for in terms of a gated community of people who are serious at solving a particular problem. But it's, because the person's, to be in there in the first place, the person's already got your money, so they're not worried about you talking about your business or promoting your business or networking inside the mastermind. You're welcome to do that. So, anyway, that is, those are the types of communities you find. And it's one of these things I have been puzzling over, that like people think if you just don't spam in your community that it'll be valuable, but like there's no place I go to because it doesn't have spam, right? I don't sit down and think, let's see, what spam-free location can I go to on the internet? I mean, if I want no spam, I leave the internet. Like I go to my backyard, it's a great place, there's no spam there. There's, no people, business people self-promoting themselves, right? And so your Discord that you're advertising, right, you're self-promoting, is not going to have less self-promotion than my backyard, right? You're just not going to win that. So why am I going to your community? And this person, what they need to do is figure out a problem that they're solving. I can think of a number of great communities. You should probably start with one. You could expand it and have a community that do several things, but you should get good at one thing first, just like in a business. And for instance, I would say like, hey, a lot of entrepreneurs have a problem really defining and connecting with their target audience. And so I have a Discord where people, one, share who they think their demographics are, their outreach, they get how they're going to reach out to them, provide feedback, follow up with what actually happened, right? So it's all people learning, and you can create like a sample post template. GitHub, for example, is another great is another great website that uses that has a particular mission, i.e. building code. And one of the things they do specifically around bug templates for code is they have like a template. This is what a good post looks like. When you have a specific mission, it's easy to create that template. So you could, in this theoretical niche finding or target audience finding website, you could create a post of like, hey, these are the demographics, these are the psychographics, these are, what I want to sell, this is where I think they'll be, these are my methods for reaching out to them, whatever. You could outline like what's in a good post, what's in a good response, and then the community, if you get the right people in first, you don't just have spam bots. If you get the right people in, they'll self-police, right? They'll say, hey, this does not look like the template we said you should have for this post. Or, hey, this type of response is not helpful. And within that, like if you're doing that, if you're making sure that people provide value, you don't have to police the self-promotion, right? You just have to police the providing value, which is much more effective than creating a space where you carefully police promotion, but you're not providing any consistent value outside of no spam, which again, just go touch grass if all you want is no spam. So I'm sorry if this is a little bit of a rant, but this is something I find again and again, like with entrepreneur networking, just like put a bunch of people in a room and, the magic will happen. And what a lot of these places turn into, especially if they're free and online, is a bunch of needy people asking for stuff. And they drive away anyone who's helpful or serious because they're like, this is a waste of my time. None of these people are going to help me. versus if you get people who are passionate about a subject, such as market research, such as finding your target audience, such as creating creating video sales letter funnels, whatever that is, whatever that specific thing is. If you create a bunch of people who are passionate about that topic, they will share naturally and they will help and support each other. And chances are you will attract a few experts, right, who might want to promote themselves, people who are good at video editing for a VSL case, or people who are good at setting up websites. And as long as they're providing value according to like the post templates or the guidelines, etc., then you really don't have to police them. And in fact, you can partner with them and say, hey, how about you do a webinar that you can advertise in my group, right? They'll bring their audience to your group, right? All of these things, like the whole self-promotion aspect is not the problem. The problem is that you don't have any value. And so that all you get are like self-promoting people and needy people, rather than people coming back to create and receive value. So that is the biggest mistake you can create when you create an online community, but it's also the biggest mistake you can create for a business. And people do this all the time, right? They have an anti-purpose for starting something rather than a purpose. And like psychologically, that's in part because people have a negativity bias and they're often more motivated to avoid a negative than to do a positive. But that doesn't really work in a business case for most people, right? So let me put it this way. For instance, if you have a way to set up a marketing funnel that is easier, you can have that requires no technical knowledge. So you take the pain out of marketing funnels. You might be advertising or thinking of like, oh, this is terrible that like I don't get stuck for days writing code for a website when you could have your funnel up now with my new online solution, whatever it is. But like avoiding that negative, you can market that from time to time, but as a business strategy, that is a failure, because what if your target audience's biggest problem isn't just writing the code, or you're kind of locked in on solving that one narrow problem? And you should absolutely solve problems for your audience, but you should solve as many problems for a very specific audience as you can, and framing that whole quest in the positive, that whole mission in the positive, right? I am going to make this, I'm going to make it as easy and quick as possible to set up a video sales letter funnel, right? Maybe one of the code might be a piece of that, but part of that might be giving people a VSL template, or like literally like either just like the content, like a step-by-step process for creating it, or maybe even like literally a video template, right, that they can plop into their editor and like throw, that has a title sequence, and they can throw their explanations in here, and here, and they have like, the music track set up. So it's like almost plug and play video, right? There might be other things that you can solve for this audience to make it the easiest thing ever. So it's not just, you don't want to just advertise like this is a codeless VSL thing where, this is, creating a video sales letter funnel without the pain of code, right? That could be one bullet point, but there's all sorts of codeless things I could do to sell what I'm selling, right? What you want to say is like the quickest way to instantly get access to hundreds of thousands of people online. That's a much more compelling vision than like, you don't have to write code. I don't have to write code anyway. There's lots of alternatives where I don't have to write code. But if you are the quickest way to access, hundreds of thousands of people or whatever, if you are the number one way new marketers can set up a funnel with, 10% conversion rate or something like that, right? If you're the number one for something, for a mission that is much more attractive, right? And that's essentially the problem, boiling down to the problem with creating the community on a negative vision is you'll very rarely be the only person that doesn't do X. There's usually tons of other solutions that don't do X. As I mentioned before, right, for this community person, there's tons of places I can actually go to not get spam. Most of them are offline, but they exist, right? You have tons of competitors. But there's also spaces online where I can get value without spam. I can go ask, chat GPT questions and it doesn't spam me. There's no ads, right? There we go. That's a competitor. And I don't have to wait for other people to respond. It responds instantly. So like if you're defining yourself by what you're not, you will always have a ton of competitors because there's, a bunch of people not doing that thing. But if you define your mission such that you can be the best person at it, like this is the place to go if you want to find your target audience. All of the other generalized advice out there, like books on that, will not help you. You can plop down this information and you'll have responses from people who have done this successfully and repeatedly, who will give you suggestions for your specific circumstance. And right, and like I can't say that, like if I post on Reddit, for example, a generalized board, I might get lucky and someone might show up. I might get some smart aleck I probably will get several people who are just like smart alecks and making asinine comments. I remember one time I ran into a bot that was giving me grief for saying play stupid games, get stupid prizes. Someone literally wrote a bot to harass people who use that phrase in their post, right? And so I might get what I want, I might not. But if there is one place where I always know I am going to get response for finding my target audience, bam, I'm going there. It's a no-brainer because there's nowhere else I can go to actually get that. So that is one of the biggest mistakes. That is one thing I do a lot when I am coaching people in small businesses who are launching new communities or products or whatnot. They have very ill-defined goals for what they're accomplishing. They're often trying to avoid something rather than market towards another thing, market towards something. And it's so much easier to provide value and differentiate yourself from competitors when you know what you are doing better and differently than just trying to avoid doing something that annoys you, gets your goat, etc. So I should relate this back to our overall quest to help Meg. Meg, for example, right, is teaching English, but she could be teaching English without having to focus on grammar, or with speak English now without the pain of grammar, or having to have perfect grammar, right? That's kind of avoiding something. But that's a message she's taught people before, actually, and not necessarily got a bunch of clients. It really wasn't until she created this, the 5-day challenge and then the workshop around, this is how to communicate, this is how to pitch or communicate or market yourself in English to an English-speaking audience. And that this is how to do something, right, is a bigger differentiator for her than saying, I am not a English teacher who just teaches grammars. And it's more specific even than I am an English teacher who helps you with your goals, right? That's still kind of vague. That's still general. It's not a negative, but it's also not really actually a positive. It's too ill-defined. But when you say, I am an English coach who helps you pitch your business to an English audience, that is very specific. It could be even more specific with industries. For instance, if she wanted to focus on the entertainment industry, she has a few clients there, which is exciting. So, I help you pitch your idea to English-speaking studios. I helped you, or I help you connect with and collaborate with English-speaking creatives. or I help you speak confidently, connect with your fans at conventions, etc. Like those are different use cases, right? All positive, very specific to statements. So again, if you are creating something, if you've been struggling to advertise something, this is probably one of the big reasons is you just don't really have a good value statement. It's either in the negative or insufficiently clear. Here's another simple and silly example, but there are all sorts of places for D&D nerds like me to gather to talk about role-playing games. I've seen all sorts of servers. And I've invited people to join groups and start groups with like, yes, let's play a game, but like playing a game is general. And I've tried to create groups around, well, we're serious, i.e., this is a game that's going to be regular, i.e., we're going to avoid the problem of like non-serious people joining and dropping out and sinking the game, right? Like trying to avoid something. But after trying a few unsuccessful communities, I changed my pitch and I changed to something like, this is a server I am creating so that we can run one-shots every other Friday night. One-shot being like a standalone game. And if you want to, you can just join and drop in any Friday night we'll be playing. Or every other Friday night we'll be playing. And that was a very specific pitch, and it started to draw people. That started to draw people who wanted to have others test their games, who are game creators. It drew people who are used to running games but don't get a chance to play games. And it drew, some other people who just wanted to be able to, drop in on a Friday night if they didn't have anything else to do. Like, it was a very specific pitch, and people knew they could join it for that very specific thing. All of a sudden I went from having a difficult time trying to attract attention to, getting 100 people joining the Discord server with just a few posts. So the difference in marketing when you have a value proposition, this is what I am going to do better than my competitors, rather than this is what I'm not doing, is huge. And a big part of difficulty in marketing starts there. Of course, a lot of people, how do you get to a specific purpose? A lot of times that comes from practice marketing and failing. So as we talked with Meg, her successful workshop on how to pitch in English really came from trying to market herself several times, trying to create and articulate that specific value. And we created a pitch template, like a PDF pitch template that didn't quite work. We, created a few different things. She got some interest in her 5-day challenge. She, tried it out as a workshop. It takes a while to get the right specific value that resonates with your audience. But when you do, you start getting people, and it was kind of like magic. She did that one workshop and she got 2 clients out of it, whereas, before she could spend weeks working on something and, not get a client. And that's the difference between having a specific purpose and, having a generalized purpose, or being unclear on your purpose, or being unclear on your purpose because you actually have an anti-purpose. You're avoiding something rather than helping people to achieve something. So, I think that's plenty for now. Anyway, if this rant has been helpful, like, subscribe. Meg will be back tomorrow, and we'll talk more about what she's doing to grow her audience. We're in a quest to get her a repeatable client acquisition model. As I mentioned, the workshop, we actually have something that worked once. Now we need to see if it's repeatable. So come subscribe, join us future mornings to see if our workshop process can be turned into a repeatable client acquisition model, and if that model can get her to full capacity as an English coach. Until next time, make big changes, one small habit at a time.